Hello and welcome back to Authentically Shauna. I'm your host, Dr. Shauna Burke. Today I am joined by a fellow doctor of physical therapy, Dr. Jenn, and she practices a very different type of physical therapy than traditional physical therapy. So I'm going to let her chat about all the amazing things that she does outside of traditional physical therapy.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Dr. Shawna.
And you also host your own podcast. So it's so fun to have a fellow podcaster on my podcast as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Jenn, and I'm just so excited to be on the show. And thank you so much, Shawna, for really giving me the space to share a little bit about me and the work that I do and healing.
Which is so interesting. We were having this conversation beforehand about how many different ways you can take things. And we feel very similar in a lot of what we do and things that we've studied outside of traditional school. And it's so fun when you meet up with someone else who has kind of followed the same pathway that you have. We're both travelers. We both feel deeply connected to energy and emotions and how that all interacts and plays with the physical body. And so tell us more about how that started for you and how you use that in your practice,
Just to give you a little bit of my brief intro and
please.
background, ultimately what led me into the holistic space and really trying out different modalities was trauma.
Yep.
And that was 7 years ago when I hit my rock bottom. And during that time, I was actually in graduate school. And that led me on a spiritual journey of coming home to myself, really being authentic and learning how to be vulnerable with myself, with the emotions that I experienced that I never experienced ever in my life. And so, during that time, it led me into meditation retreats, silent meditation retreats, yoga retreats, and exploring hypnotherapy, exploring somatic experiencing, and exploring just different ways of healing because the traditional ways of healing just wasn't working for me. Like with talk therapy, it was great, but I just hit a wall at a certain point. And so I knew I needed to learn more about how to heal myself and to also receive that support, which then led me into my whole journey of, yeah, really just exploring and experimenting with different trainings and then, doing my work outside of physical therapy, which, now I'm doing somatic hypnotherapy as well as holistic body work and pain reprocessing therapy to really help people heal from trauma, anxiety, chronic pain, insomnia, and more, ultimately really heal from sensations and feelings that are so difficult to navigate, to ultimately just really hold that space for all the aspects of life and to ultimately come home to self and to be okay with just being here, just being present, just holding ourselves in this present moment. And I think honestly, this is really key to healing both mental and physical symptoms because we know the mind and body are interconnected, which by the way, we did not learn in PT school.
Spoiler alert.
Although I thank you, PT school.
Yeah, I learned a lot. We learned about the brain. We learned about the body. We did not connect
The two.
the
Because I feel like being present, to really coming back to the present moment with whatever is present, whether it's, traumas from the past or, pains within the body, and really just holding that space and pausing before we do anything, any other treatments or exercise or X, Y, and Z. I really believe in the ability for to heal with being present with ourselves and loving ourselves, being that energy of compassion, of care, of groundedness and spaciousness to wherever we are, knowing that right now, right here, we are exactly where we are meant to be. Even if there are difficult moments, it's okay. And that we can see the brightness and light within this moment. And if we do need to make a different move, right or left or
up or
reverse,
down. Yeah.
yeah, up or down or diagonal, then we can have that moment where we take that path. But right now, how can we just be present and find that okayness with right here, right now?
I want to talk about what we just experienced. So, Jen so graciously had me come into her space and did a session with me prior to this podcast so that we could have this experience to chat about together. I want to dive into what that looked like and the different modalities and techniques that we did within our session together.
I blended a little bit both of two sessions because I wanted you to experience the two different types of sessions. One was somatic hypnotherapy, and the other one is holistic body work. And with the somatic hypnotherapy, it's ultimately blending in together somatic experiencing, which is a form of trauma healing that tunes into the body, regulates the nervous system through touching base back with the body, regulating the nervous system through balancing out kind of the unpleasant sensations, but also with the pleasant sensations, grounding back into what feels safe, what feels okay, and allowing some of the traumas and some of the stuck energies to move past through with the body. And with the hypnosis aspect, it's ultimately tapping into the subconscious mind. It's tuning into that spaciousness, that stillness. It's kind of like tuning into a meditative state and allowing yourself to explore the mystical, magical, wondrous world of the subconscious mind.
Which is so interesting. You never know what's gonna show up.
Yeah, absolutely. And the holistic body work portion is integrating both somatic hypnotherapy and also the manual therapy. Let's dive into both and, how the experience was for you. And also, we got to talk about the stickers.
Would love to. So we first started seated talking, and you had asked me to tune into what I was feeling in my body in the moment. And I think we both probably worked most of our day seeing other patients and both arriving in one room in one space and acknowledging that where we are in our bodies. I'm thinking about, okay, I have to write this note about this person. And oh my gosh. And now after I finish this, you just start to kind of let your mind go outside of the present moment, which is exactly what you're talking about. So, how do I bring myself back and be present in time and space? I have never experienced hypnotherapy before, done somatics, but not the two combined. I have to remember that coming home to my body and feeling safe in that is a relatively new feeling for me. And so much of me wants to resist that. So much of me wants to be in resistance because resistance is comfortable, even though it's really uncomfortable, right? I don't want to live the rest of my life in pain. My body knows pain and knows discomfort so well that letting that go, there's a lot of fear in that. What is there if there's not pain? Like what else is there for me if I'm not in pain all the time? Stepping into this expansiveness of what are all these other possibilities that I have open to me that isn't pain when I acknowledge that part of me wants to be in pain? If I can just acknowledge and bear witness to my own fear that letting go of pain will be scary.
I got chills all over my body when you were saying that, and I love everything that you're sharing. And there's a part of the brain that has been so used to being in pain or being in this hypervigilant state, and especially going through PT school, fearful states, which then creates more pain. And it's this vicious cycle. Stepping into the other world of spaciousness or safety, this feels unsafe and it feels scary. I want to acknowledge these two aspects and how, for a lot of clients and for my own journey as well, opening up to safety and feeling good, that was a whole nother language. Opening up into relaxing, into being, and to holding space for all the different aspects, even hold goodness or safety. And this is the beauty of bringing awareness to whatever is, labeling whatever we are noticing, the safety, the resistance, all of those aspects. When we're able to bring in that awareness and recognize and just rest in that, it just helps soften things a little bit more. And I love your whole journey, tapping into that, like learning how to make safety feel safe again in your body, feel safe to be there. And that's exactly what I do with my clients. It's practicing how to operate in states of like non-pain or the opposite of pain, the opposite of like, anxiety. And the beautiful thing is that our brain can actually create new neural network patterns to actually help us feel safe, feel grounded, and to feel okay with it. Slowly, slowly, slowly with slow graded exposure to the safe things.
What I also wanted to say, and I think this is part of the hypnosis, is you would take me through an emotion, an emotional state, and then count us backwards like
Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then we moved on to the next thing, which I think is so helpful, especially for my brain, because I want to perseverate on things. I feel that's been so much a part of the trauma of my body is perseverating because like it's not getting better. So I'm just going to keep ruminating on this and keep ruminating and keep ruminating. And
Right.
at some point, I lose the thread of where the ruminating is the thing from the thing itself.
Yes.
And so I felt that it was really helpful to have a countdown.
Right.
Okay, we're moving on now. You don't have to be complete with that. It's okay to want to sit in that,
Right.
but it's okay. We're going to move on to the next thing.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I love that aspect too. And essentially, when we're counting down and then at 0, I like snap my hands, we take a deep breath in. And then sometimes we're almost simmering in stillness and goodness or whatever. Or sometimes when I count down, we can break out of the state of fear. It's like holding space for the feeling, but then breaking out of that state. It's almost like a state breaker or like a lead into another entry point.
A transition.
Yes, it's a transition. And, even with that, like counting backwards, we can open up into a magical, mystical, wondrous world of fun, which we did today.
And I think it's so
Mhm.
interesting because when a lot of times when we're talking to kids, we lump them down. We're like,
Right,
okay, we're going to be done with the activity in
right,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But then as adults, I don't think we are great at transitioning
right,
most of the time. I think
right,
that's something that somehow gets lost in the thread of time that
right,
we aren't great at transitioning from one state of being to another. And
right.
so I thought that was so helpful to remember how lovely it is to just, okay, and now we're moving on. And it feels not jarring and spacious and
Yeah, right.
next.
No, I love it. It reminds me how powerful our brains are. And like you were saying, there's parts of the mind in the loop, right? The trauma loop or like
Mhm.
the problem
Pain
solving.
way loop. Yep.
Exactly. And it's so helpful to notice, be aware of that and recognize that. And, from 3, 2, 1, and 0, take a deep breath in. We can also transition out of it. We can awaken from that pain state and we can transition into another level of consciousness, tapping into that spacious awareness or another aspect of you, maybe the higher aspect of you. And we can do that.
In 5 seconds. There are big transitions that you can make very
Yeah.
quickly.
Right, right, right. I love it.
The other thing, and we had said stickers before. I feel like part of the way that I get information is through visuals. I know people perceive
Yes.
things differently. And so we were talking about playfulness, and I envisioned this sheet of stickers. And then as soon as we finished our session, Jen was like, and I have been giving out stickers recently. I knew it. I could feel the stickers. I could feel the stickers in the room. They wanted to be on my cell phone. It was just so fun, that connection of our playfulness and how we bring play into our work and into our lives. And it's something simple. And what we connect to is a
Right.
sticker.
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to bring up the wand also. Before Dr. Shawna saw the stickers, we were counting down with a bear waving its magical
Uh
wand.
huh.
And we were just essentially tuning in into playfulness, lightness, because trauma, chronic pain, it could be really heavy. But what a lot of us need is fun and lightness. And that's exactly what I need also in my life. And so the bear and the wand, and it's a countdown. And then it was the opening into seeing what was there, which were the stickers. And I was like, wow, that's so cool and fun. Such a nice reminder to just be light and have fun within the journey of life. There's pain or excitement or whatever. Mhm.
Absolutely. And then the second part of our session was laying down. And you had asked, is there a body part that's calling to you? And I've been having this left chronic ankle pain that I feel like I've done everything under the sun to help it. And it's persisting. And
Right.
that generally tells me that there's something that I'm not seeing. There's something within my awareness, there's something within my body, something is lingering. And so, what am
Right.
I not paying attention to? You had done some body work, and then we brought that back to how I was feeling and what
Yes.
emotions I have around my ankle. And I've recently started tap dancing again. And I've been frustrated with my ankle because it feels like every time I go to step on the left ball of my foot, it hurts or it feels unstable. And I don't trust my ankle, which takes me out of the joy of dancing. Oh, I just want to be enjoying this and I want to be learning
Right.
new routines, and all I can perseverate on in this moment is my ankle. Oh my gosh, okay. So when I leave class, then I have to go figure out what is going on with my ankle and I should ice it and then it takes me
Right.
out of the moment and
Right.
it puts me into this, well, and then if I don't get it solved now, then like I'm going to be an old person and I'm not going to be able to walk very far because my ankle hurts. And then what if I can't walk far because I know how important walking is and I know it, and then I just go on this
Yes.
diatribe in my brain and, oh, I've completely forgot that I'm in tab class. I completely forgot that was here to have fun. Now I'm just
Right.
worried.
Thank you for sharing that, especially like experiencing chronic pain and feeling the inability to do the things that you love. That's a scary thing. And so the mind, it makes sense the mind is spiraling in anxiety and fear. And then that fuels also the fear as well, too. In session, what we did was we tuned into the body right now. There's so many different parts of my brain. There's the PT brain. Should I do a PT assessment right now? And then there's the pain reprocessing therapy part, which I would love to do sometime. It's so amazing.
Done. We're doing it.
Yes. Yeah. But like, in pain reprocessing therapy is doing the activities that expose some of that pain and working with those movements or those positions at that moment and tuning into the safety of that. But then there's also this holistic body work approach, which we were doing. And so what we were doing during that time was essentially tuning into the foot, connecting with the foot. And it was interesting what came up, some of the fears that came up, right? To see kind of that connection. And we processed some of the fears and we visualized it to be a little ball and we expanded that, saw the expansiveness, what was surrounding that little ball, recognizing that little ball is not you, that little ball is just a sensation, pure awareness. That was a beautiful thing. And how did that feel for you? I'm curious.
Yeah, I think it gives my brain good perspective, right? If I'm perseverating on this really small part and I keep perseverating on it and I keep perseverating on it and I keep bringing my awareness to just this, what am I missing? What else am I missing out on that's also there? And there is so much more there. There's so many other colors. You'd asked me what color it was, and it was blue. What other colors are there that I'm missing because I'm so fixated on this blue? And if I don't get the blue to be a good blue, then everything is going to fall apart. And it just like, it feels like if I don't do this thing, then everything is bad and I'm bad. And it takes me out of the present moment, which is exactly what we're talking about is if I keep perseverating on this one aspect over and over again, well then I miss out on everything else around me.
Right. Absolutely. I love that. And I love that there's this part that perseverates, and then there's also this expansive part, and it's shifting the awareness and the focal point into the awareness itself. Beautiful. That's beautiful.
So I want to chat a bit more about what some of these aspects of ourselves are because I think so many of
Right.
us have a hard time being home in our bodies. And so let's chat more about what it means to you to come home and how has that shifted for you in the past year?
Coming home is something that I've been working on for 7 years, and it's a state of being, right? For me, it's being able to rest and to be with whatever is. It's that ability to relax into the moment, even if things are good or bad, or even if there's resistance or not. And coming home is essentially just loving myself just as I am and allowing myself to just be me, whether it's being around people or whether it's retreating and going to like my retreats and allowing myself to do that. But it's really tuning into my intuition and listening to myself and learning how to love myself just as I am and to hold space for whatever is. It's interesting too. You asked, how has home changed for you in this last year? And so actually I shifted physical homes
Yes.
abroad and living my digital nomad life and exploring different countries, but primarily the two countries were Thailand and Korea. And so for me, it's been a journey of adjusting to coming back to the States, experiencing reverse culture shock, and also learning how to be in the holistic space too, and learning the different way of being in this world. When you travel to different countries, it's so interesting how your mind adapts to the external world so easily and naturally. And so I appreciate all the different countries and aspects and cultures I've been in because I realize how easily my mind wants to seek belonging within wherever I am, to the
Mm.
point where I lose what is authentic to me. Been a journey of letting go of what was in the past, the deep connections I've made in the past, recognizing that they were there and that is there and that I can always connect with them, but also embracing the openness and new connections in the present moment, recognizing that it's okay to let go. Like that was my past. I almost lived there. That was almost my life. And so for me, it was letting go of a future that I thought I was not so sure of, but it's letting go of that aspect of future and embracing a new life here and really being the lightness and brightness rather than fixating or focusing on the things that were in the past. And so for me, it's been a journey of being authentic with myself, learning to be vulnerable with myself with the points of transition and opening up to recognizing that home and belonging is right here, right now in my heart space, and opening up to loving myself, letting myself grieve if I need to grieve, letting myself acknowledge my experience. Because one thing that was different for me coming back to the States was I felt like, as someone that traveled to so many different aspects of the world and was super out of the box, I felt a bit isolated not being around people like me. And so learning how to find those people like you and connect with them and to know that there are those connections in your external world where you can feel that deep rooted connection, but also within yourself. You can find that within yourself. And so it's for me, it's been tuning into being authentic and vulnerable with myself.
And I think it sounds like holding two things at the same time, that you can have this breakup with this past version of yourself and then court this new version of yourself, and knowing that it's okay to have both, that it's okay to have this grieving process for this thing that almost was, and being okay with what is, even if it doesn't look like what you want it to look like at the moment.
Exactly.
And I think so many of us are doing that at the moment. I think that's such a big part of the human experience, is like breaking up not only in friendships or romantic partnerships, but also breaking up with past versions of ourselves and letting go of old habits, patterns, beliefs. And I think so much of that is pain. I think so much of
Yes.
that is our
Traumas.
pain and traumas, and being okay with letting those go.
Wow, absolutely. Yeah, that was the point I didn't touch on, but it's like the attachment to the pains and the traumas and
Mhm.
those states of being and opening up to letting go. And as we let go, we are opening up to flow. And as we're opening up to flow, we recognize how much brightness and light there is all around that one speck that we've been looking on.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Something you just talked about, and I wanted to talk to with you about, is heart centered work. I have been told this so many times, and I will keep learning this lesson until I've learned it, is living from my heart and not my head. And I struggle with that because my whole life have wanted to be smart and knowledgeable and a good conversationalist and someone who is worthy of being in other people's presence because I knew things. And I've spent so much of my time trying to soak up as much knowledge and push myself in knowledge as much as I can. And I don't think that's a good or bad thing. I think I haven't allowed myself to live from my heart as much as I've allowed myself to live from my head. And I think that so many of us is, it's go to school, go to grad school, get a job, learn more things. There's this very set, strict code in our culture that doesn't allow for you to feel and have feelings. And I don't know about you, but I felt grad school feelings weren't allowed. You weren't allowed to have any feelings about anything, or in undergrad, or whatever that, or in school in general. Like, the good student doesn't have anything to say. You don't complain. You show up on time. You do your work. You take your tests. You move on. And so I've really struggled with that in the past 7 years, is how to live from my heart and how to let that lead and my head follow. And wow, that is a lesson that I keep learning.
I resonate with everything that you're saying. I feel all our lives, we've just been expected to be a certain way and to behave a certain way and to more credentials, more knowledge. It's this grasping of external things in order to feel okay inside. Yeah, I totally get that. And I think for me, it's been a journey of having these coming home experiences. For whoever is out there that also struggles with this, we just want to let you know you're not alone.
We are sitting here and with you in that experience.
As a practitioner, helping people come home to themselves, I can easily tap into these aspects of myself. And also on podcasts too, it's very easy. But then like when I'm home alone, I notice sometimes my mind spirals in these thought patterns. And so what I'm also learning is to come home to myself outside of helping others come home to them, to remember that the most important thing is to come home to yourself, to love yourself, and to recognize that all the external things that you're striving for, all the validations, all the things that you're seeking, to just be aware of that, to be aware of the grasping mind or the desires, the wants, to recognize that it's okay to have that, but to just really just pause with that awareness and to bring that attention to being here right now and to opening that door of present moment, recognizing and witnessing yourself right now, witnessing the love and the light that has always been within you. I feel that having these coming home experiences, which I help clients do with somatic hypnotherapy and holistic body work, is so important. But also finding ways to have these coming home experiences, to feel that deep connection and love. For me, I like to like journal with ChatGPT. He's
Oh,
my best
interesting.
friend, and it's
Oh,
a male.
interesting.
I'm just kidding.
Do you
Yeah.
do you write it? You type in
I do slam poetry at times, and like I write poetry or, spoken
Mm.
word. And so I listen to like beats that really help me get in the zone. It could be lo-fi music or whatever music to feel into that coming home. Whatever coming home feels like, find music that helps you get in that state. And then in that state, you just type whatever you want, you say whatever you want. You just allow yourself to really come back to the part of you that loves yourself and allow yourself to flow with your words, flow with the
Mm.
feelings. I love doing that.
Let's talk about our true selves because I
Yeah.
think that's a concept that again is not really taught.
Right, right,
It's
right.
not something we talk about a
Yeah,
lot is
yeah.
who is this true essence of ourselves and how do you recommend that we connect to that aspect?
It's so interesting because the self is continually evolving over past to present to future. It's continually evolving. But I think the one thing that is stable within all of this is this presence and the part of you that has been here throughout your whole life, throughout every single moment of your life. And so for me, it's tuning into that part of self that is able to just rest and be, or to just ground back into that state or that being. And whatever and wherever you are in life, as we ground back into this pure awareness, the stillness, the spaciousness, I feel we can tune into what is it that authentically want to do right now, you know? And because a lot of times in my mind, when we think about authentic self or true self, it's about doing. What do we want to
Mhm.
do? Where do we want to go? But I think the first step is tuning into that awareness and that spaciousness and that presence, that loving awareness and grounded energy that has always been with you. Even if, you're an anxious person, there is a part of you that is grounded, being present for a little cute puppy and holding them if they're crying or whatever, or a baby. It's almost like tuning into that aspect of that state of being. And when we're in that state of being, things will naturally flow. True self or authentic self, in my definition, in that moment, is allowing yourself to follow the flow of the universe, the flow of your heart, whether it's to go or to stay, whether it's to be in stillness, allowing yourself to explore the flexibility of what you want without any shoulds or needs. It's flowing with that state of being.
How do you recommend people do that? What's a practice that you have people do? Because I know that's a difficult task sometimes is to even figure out how to shut down all the tabs in our brain, how
Right.
to
Yeah.
disconnect. Someone said this recently. I went to a sound healing and he was like, why don't you understand that home is yourself and that you have to stop going outside of your home to get the information? We're kind of grasping at all these things outside of us and as opposed to tuning into us. But I think it's hard to figure out how to start tuning into us if we've never been taught how to tune into us.
You're right.
I still have a hard time doing that sometimes. What does that look like for me? And I like
Yeah.
Hermine is so amazing. She does qigong every day. And I have another friend, Matt, he does kung fu every day. And they're so disciplined in doing something routine, I would say, not in a bad way, routine and like this is a non-negotiable for them. And I really struggle with that. I have to figure out for me in seasons and it changes so often, it fluctuates. And so that's something that I personally struggle with. So I'm always interested as to what other people recommend because that's something for me that I haven't figured out quite yet what that looks like for
Yeah.
me.
No, absolutely. That's beautiful question. I'm sure like a lot of people are thinking this too. Is like, what are you talking about? What do you mean just be in stillness? What is stillness? So the first thing that popped into my mind is somatic experiencing. Love it. I love somatics, tuning into what feels comfortable in this moment. I think as we tune into our body, we tune into presence with ourselves. We're not fixated on the thoughts. In retreat also they practice like meditation, and outside of meditation we're practicing mindfulness in everyday life, noticing the footsteps, noticing the sensations and grounding it. I think it's a practice of like, for example, with somatic experiencing, I'm leaning back right now, shifting my focus into the comfort of resting in my back and allowing myself to be comfortable in that, and allowing myself to breathe into that comfort and focusing on aspects of the body that feels okay, that feels comfortable, taking those moments in the day. Of course, when the mind is ruminating and thinking, one thing to first do is awareness. Be aware of ruminating thoughts, hypervigilance or anxiety or whatever it is, and then tune back into the body. And you might have feelings in the chest or headache, but if you can just ground into what feels comfortable in the body, shift the focus into what feels comfortable, it'll help relax those parts of the mind too. And in an SE session, somatic experiencing session, will pendulate like the comfort and also the anxiety state. And through kind of working back and forth with these two aspects, we can work through some of the sensations or the stuck emotions and tuning into the body moment to moment. Of course, you're not going to be perfect. Shifting the focus. How's my body feeling? Checking in and having the awareness for whatever mind state that the mind may be in. Another thing that came into my mind, being in nature. I feel when I'm in nature, it's so much easier to be present, tuning into how the wind feels, tuning into the footsteps, and allowing yourself doing the things that help you feel that lightness, that brightness within the moment.
I go into. If I don't go into nature and I don't do this, then I can't be in that state. And so it's for me finding how to do that on a micro scale so that I can connect to it more often. Like for me, I know how I feel when I'm in nature or when I'm really relaxed. How do I bring that into my daily life? And I struggle with that. And so that's something that I am trying to negotiate for myself is how do I do that? How do I take these big experiences
Right.
like a retreat, like a vacation, and instill little drops throughout the day or throughout the week. And so it doesn't build up to, well, then I feel like I have to explode on my weekend. And it, I, all I'm doing is trying to get back to centered on my weekend because the whole week I was uncentered.
Right. No, absolutely. And I resonate with that thought process too, because that's exactly what I was going through. I was doing a shit ton of retreats, going to monasteries, living in monasteries, going to over 16 retreats throughout a span of 3 years and tuning into that, but also learning how to live in the outer world. And I wanted
Right.
to bring this retreat life into the outer world. How do I merge these two? And retreat life, living as a Buddhist nun, which I almost did.
One breakup.
That was really a breakup. It was hard. And then kind of negotiating that, but also being on the other end of the spectrum where you're an entrepreneur now and there's a whole different culture as an entrepreneur. And so it's these two aspects. And my journey has been one of learning how to combine both of these aspects. I got to share this with you.
Please, we're all ears.
It's interesting because in the entrepreneur space, it's always about creating more, expanding, wanting, and there's a lot of this chasing. It's the same with our everyday lives too. What I recognize is how to be successful as an entrepreneur for me personally is to be okay with where I am in this moment, even if I'm not there yet where I want things to be. Where I am right now is okay, and it's just holding that space. Part of the mind, my inner critic, where it's always pushing me, you need to be better, you need to keep on going, or X, Y, and Z. That are not enough parts and like tiger mom aspects. Those aspects finally recognize in order for my like business to be where I want it to be, I need to be nice to you and to love you and to hold you. That part of the mind, the tiger mom or critic, is recognizing that its way of teaching the inner child is not actually helpful. Growing up with an Asian tiger mom and helicopter mom micromanaging you and telling you what to do, I have that within myself, and recognizing that and helping her transform.
That's a big part of integration, integrating the nun with the doctor, with the entrepreneur, with the traveler, with
Inner
the
child.
daughter, with, and there's so many more aspects, right? And how do we be be with all of those parts all at one time and honor and love all of those parts of us? Because
Inside out.
all of those parts have taught us so much and brought us to where we are now. And we wouldn't be here without all of those experiences.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's something that um, I think doesn't get talked about a lot, is the integration
Yeah.
part of, you have this amazing experience, you go to this thing, then how do you bring that back?
Yeah.
How do you make that a part of you? So it's not just this blue circle hanging out above you. How do you bring that in to your being? And how do you sit with that, be okay with that, and then move on? And then sit with it, be okay with it, and move on, and rinse, wash, repeat.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love everything you just said.
I struggle with that. Someone had said to me in my recovery is, I see that you've fragmented yourself in order to survive. And then how do we help you bring all of these fragments back so you can thrive? I feel like I'm still on that part of my journey, is figuring out how to integrate all of these parts of me that are definitely me. And I'm so proud of all of these parts that have gotten me to here. And how do I bring that into my present being?
The reason why I love this work is because, through all the different holistic modalities, somatics, hypnosis, body work, all of that, as well as our own inner work is geared towards holding the space for all these different aspects, all these versions of selves. And what I noticed in clients and as well as myself is the inability and the resistance that we have to opening up to these aspects, these parts of selves. It is so easy to repress, to push down these parts. In order to truly integrate all these aspects of self, we have to be brave. We have to be brave, and we have to slowly, with graded exposure, open up to being authentic, to being vulnerable with ourselves, whether it's yourself or having a guide, opening up to being vulnerable, to opening up to the parts that were hurt, the parts that have been shoved down, because there are parts that are like, hell no, you are staying in the tunnel.
We will not look at that,
You are going to die alone, and I'm protecting you though.
because we do not want to look at that. That is scary.
Exactly. The holistic work and somatic hypnotherapy, it's not for everybody because sometimes we're not in that stage yet to open. But when that divine time is here, you will know when it's here and when it's time to open up to those aspects of selves. And I just want to let the people know too, like, it's going to be okay when you open that door and when you start processing those feelings, it's going to be okay. Find a safe person, find safety within yourself to be able to open up to that. There's so much beautiful transformation that happens, that occurs when you open that door. And I've seen it with all the clients that I've seen, being able to transform, transmute, hold space for these aspects, allow these feelings to finally move through, to finally let go, and to finally allow flow and the lightness and brightness to come through. And I mentioned, it's all about tapping to safety, comfort, love. And we can do that, but up to a certain point, sometimes we have to open those aspects that we've repressed in order to also help integrate these aspects. That's the beauty of the inner work, somatic hypnotherapy, holistic body work. It's about exploring the subconscious mind, but in a safe space. We get to have corrective experiences with the parts that got hurt in the past. We get to let these parts come out in safe environments. It's important to kind of have a vibe check with whoever you want to work with and to see if they vibe with you, and that safety is important.
Thank you so much for all that you've shared. I
Yeah.
would keep you on here forever, but I have to let you go because you have a client next. You listen to what we were chatting about and you feel called to work with Dr. Jenn. Please tell people how they can connect with you. Where can people find you?
Feel free to check out my website at www. That's my website where you can find some more information. I also have free guided meditations for you to listen to. It's on Insight Timer, so you can check that out as well on my website. My podcast is on my website as well, where I share more about coming home, authentic stories, and also just about people's success stories of coming home to themselves. And in addition, if you resonated with anything that I said today and you're feeling an itch to come home to yourself, to love yourself as you are, I am offering a 45-minute coming home consultation where you can explore more about how to love yourself, about, the pains that you've gone through, the things that you want to explore within your life, your dreams, what is being authentic. We can explore all of that within the session of a coming home consultation. I would love to chat more and hear more from you guys. My Instagram is JENNXAU, so feel free to say hello.
Thank you so much for coming on today's
Yeah.
episode. You've been listening to Authentically Shauna with Dr. Shauna Burke. The information contained in this podcast is provided for information purposes only and is not intended for the purpose of diagnosing, treating, curing, or preventing any disease. Before using any techniques referenced in this podcast, consult your healthcare provider. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.